Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with Traders Summit. And once again, thank you for joining me with Mr. Dick Matthews from GC Partners. How are you, Dick?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good, good. It's great to hear from you. I love these, tales from the trading desk conversations that we have. And last week we were discussing your switch into the futures market. And did you get any responses from people and traders that you've worked with in the past?
Yeah, I got some great responses. A few people begging me not to tell stories, and a few people begging me to tell stories. So, there's one in particular which I'll circle back to later, which involves our old accountant there. But I'll come back. That's a good one to finish when we finish the podcast on. But one guy in particular brought back so many memories for me. A guy called Tony Laporta, who was out of Chicago, and I guess his voice is best described as a Chicago version of my voice. He's got this really deep, growly, gravelly voice, and just by him emailing me, I can still hear his voice. It's absolutely remarkable. It's like it was yesterday. And he was reputed. He was a really funny trader, and he would get really pig-headed about things, and he was reputed to have secret pockets where he would stash cards, so not everyone would know what his position was. And he'd go through his ties if he hit a trading card up his tie. But he was a wonderful guy, and it was great to hear from him. And hopefully you'll listen in on this.
That's great. So he's from Chicago. So how did did you normally have traders from Chicago around in London? What happened there?
Well, it's really interesting because up until the futures market opened, and I might be wrong and people might take me to task for this on the soft commodity markets, but local traders didn't exist in London. They just weren't there. There were the banks and the discount houses and the investment houses, etc. But there weren't local traders. And it was incredible to see this happen on the futures market. And I don't know how many came over there. I certainly remember Tony, Mark Stanton, 3 or 4 other guys who came over. There's a guy called Pistol Pete, who's sadly no longer with us, who's a lovely man. And I can't remember his real name. I just know him as Pistol Pete, typically. And they came over and they would stand there, and the market was just starting and there wasn't liquidity, and they brought liquidity to the market. And they would stand there, make a market, and 5 for 1, 1 at 7, 5 1, 1 at 7, and they would just be in and out all day long doing this. And they really changed so much in London, and we owe them such a debt of gratitude. It's unreal.
That's amazing. It's got to be pretty. It's pretty cool, in my opinion. Just hearing your stories, but understanding that you were there at the beginning as futures trading really took off. You were an integral part, and the people that came and helped it, help create it. That's pretty neat to know and to understand. So did it change the way London was, the way that you knew it?
It certainly changed the way I knew London, because to go out with those boys was an adventure, put it that way. They brought all the instincts of Rush Street to Chelsea. Certainly, a few people weren't prepared for their ability to play hard, work hard and play hard, I guess is the way.
Right.
One instance sticks out in my mind. There used to be an old-fashioned champagne bar, of course, typical of London, only sold champagne and smoked salmon sandwiches from memory, called the Greenhouse, later known as Greens. And it's where the stockbrokers used to go, and they, when they've had a good day, and they'd stand there and they'd have a glass of champagne. Oh, well done, old boy. Well done, old boy. And I vividly remember being in there with a guy called Ted Ursa, who ran Salomon Brothers futures arm on the floor. And he was having a glass of champagne, and another local great man called Alan Dickinson, Dicko to his friends, walked in, and these 2 guys turned around and saw us in our trading jackets. You could just see in their face what are you doing in here, you riffraff? You shouldn't be allowed in here. And Dicko just turned around and said, go on, get out, sling your hook, the new breed's here. And it stuck with me that the city had changed, that all of a sudden we had the power. The locals had the power, the individual had the power, And I could stand in the market, or any of the guys could stand in the market and be on an equal footing with Barclays or Goldman Sachs or Salomons or whatever, which was a revolution in a lot of ways. And the city became a much, much better place for it.
Wow. Okay. So you and I in private conversation before we did this, you talk about the Big Bang. Can you explain that to myself and the other listeners today?
Yeah, the Big Bang occurred in 1986, and it was at the behest of Margaret Thatcher, the great Conservative leader of the UK, who changed so many things in Britain, unbelievably. The country wouldn't be the country it is now without her. And she brought in rules to change the city, where we used to have a distinction between who could buy and sell. There'd be a jobber who would make the market, and then the investment banks or brokers could buy and sell from the jobber. And so there were two distinct functions in the city. Big Bang changed all that, and we could all be one unit. We could be a jobber, we could be a broker, we could be an investor, and companies were set up specifically to take advantage of that. And the great names in the city, like Wed Durlacher, who'd had probably for 150 years a dominant role in the city, was suddenly acquired by Barclays, and wow, the whole world changed. Ackroyd and Smithers, who was the other big jobber who made the markets in shares, got acquired by, I can't remember who it was, but by another bank. And then the stockbrokers got acquired. Phillips and Drew, who I'd started with, got acquired by UBS. And so it just changed absolutely everything. It blurred the lines. And in effect, it made London able to compete on a level playing field with the US and maintain its position, which I will say it still has now, despite Brexit, as being the preeminent trading centre in Europe, and still certainly in the top two in the world.
I would agree with you. And I think, the being predominantly currency centric myself, as a trader, I always look at, you got London and you've got New York. And if, you have your choice, it's either or, right? So that's pretty cool. And I know Margaret Thatcher. I watched The Crown. I'm just kidding. That's such a dumb American thing to say, but no, it is. It's actually quite cool because I get to learn a little bit. From
don't take it all as gospel, though.
Yeah, all the gossip stuff. So I think that's, like I said, Dick. It's really, to me, listening to your stories, and I'm sure it is for other people, other traders, new traders that might be 20 years or less. And then some of the old breed, if you will, the guys and gals that have been around for many years. It's cool to hear your stories and understand that, you were there, and you were there, as the markets were really changing, and as they brought in calculators to the business.
Shocking. Yeah. Actually, the worst innovation they brought in was electric timestamps.
Oh no. And you're like,
yeah.
Oh, no, tell me why. Tell me why. Tell us why.
Because before that, I had a guy who I work with, who I know listens to these, who's a great mate of mine, and we go to football together. And he occasionally would turn up with this magnet, and he would turn the timestamp back with the magnet, and then timestamp orders. And I can see him doing it to this day. And all of a sudden, they were no longer clockwork; they were electronic, and you couldn't do it. It's the end of the world, as we know it. I have no idea why he wanted to turn the timestamp back, though.
So weird.
Yeah, really odd guy.
Oh wow. Well, Dick. Hey, I want to thank you on the behalf of the Trader Summit community for spending this time with us, and I'm actually looking forward to next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the ways that the market had grown for you in the years ahead. So I'm super excited about having you back, and I want to thank you for spending your time with us, and you guys, the listeners. I want to thank you all for spending your time with Mr. Matthews and myself. And remember, Dick, he provides these stories, but also he does some really good analysis in the markets. Make sure you click below, check out his profile, check out the analysis and some of his market insights that he's put up. And Dick, once again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Have a good week, guys.
You do the same. Bye-bye.
Bye.